everybody knows that every quarter we have earnings calls from the big three. So in this article, I'll be discussing the most recent earnings calls, which are from April through June, involving the big three: Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. Starting off with the PlayStation, the PS5 is currently sitting at 10 million consoles sold, which is roughly 2 million more consoles than the 7.8 million that were sold back in April. At this point, the PlayStation 5 is outpacing the sales of the PlayStation 4, making PS5 the fastest selling PlayStation console in PlayStation history. On the software side of Sony, however, Spider-Man Miles Morales has sold 6.5 million units since its release in November. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart has sold 1.1 million copies since June, and the other exclusive Returnal has sold 560,000 copies since April. And although Miles Morales did well, I feel like Returnal and Ratchet & Clank should have sold more, being that it's 10 million consoles out there, and between those two games it's about 1.6 million. But that's a topic for another discussion. Now, on the Nintendo side of things, the revenue and the profit were both down compared to the same time a year ago. Switch hardware sales were down 21.7% and software sales were down 10.2% compared to a year ago at the same time. But with that being said, the Switch still managed to sell 4.45 million units and 45.29 million pieces of software between April and June. And this brings the total count of consoles sold for the Nintendo Switch to 89 million. And with the launch of the OLED model coming soon in October, I'm sure it will boost the unit sales total. Now for Microsoft, where the overall gaming revenue was up 11%. Although Microsoft didn't release any concrete numbers, estimates from Daniel Ahmed says that the Xbox Series X and S have somewhere around 6.5 to 7 million units sold combined, which still puts the Xbox Series consoles selling more than the Xbox One and Xbox 360 consoles, respectively, at the same time in their life cycle. As mentioned by the Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, the Xbox Series consoles are the fastest selling consoles ever, with more consoles sold live today than any previous generation. So all in all, what we can learn from these numbers is that Nintendo's dominance remains. And as the world is still experiencing chip and component shortages, Sony and Microsoft are selling every console they can produce. We can tell because it's still extremely difficult to find one of these consoles on store shelves without going through a reseller. Sony has sold more consoles than Xbox for sure, but that doesn't include the fact that a lot of Microsoft players are on PC, cloud, phones, and tablets as well, and that Microsoft is more focused on subscriptions rather than consoles sold. You also have to keep in mind that Microsoft started production of the Series consoles a few months later than Sony began producing the PS5 to allow time for additional features to be added to the final hardware. The good thing is that the console market is not dead and the industry is alive and well. And as long as these companies continue to sell every system they manufacture, they're both moving in the right direction. And that's all I got to say in this article. So just remember, play games, not brands. I'm gone.